my buddies, welcome to a review video with Kim Tech. My name is Kim. Today I'll be sharing my thoughts on the iPhone 15 Pro after having been using it for over 1 month. Everything is based on my personal use with my daily routines, so they may be different from you and your situation. I'm not going to go through how to set up the iPhone because you can find so many videos on YouTube, and the Genius Bar can definitely help you if you have a problem. Instead, I want to focus on how I use the iPhone 15 Pro with iOS 17 in comparison with the 14 Pro to help you decide if the 15 Pro is really worth the upgrade. I got the iPhone 15 Pro in natural titanium. It's really nice natural color, no pun intended. The 15 Pro Max is way too big for my tiny hands, and I don't care so much about the 5x zoom, so there's no need for me to spend $100 more just to get it. I'm spending my own money here, okay? Anyway, I came across a video from Jerry Rig Everything, which made me even more glad that I didn't go with the 15 Pro Max. He was able to snap the Pro Max and crack the phone. Yo, he either has superhuman strength or the phone is just not the best quality. The 15 Pro is lighter than the 14 Pro, which is great for my tiny hands, but I don't know how it will hold up with the new titanium material. I have a case around it because I want to avoid any slippery accident bringing the 15 Pro to its demise. Want to note that if you are upgrading from the 14 Pro to the 15 Pro, you can use the same case for most cases. If you want to save money, just reuse the 14 Pro case. I haven't bought a new case for the 15 Pro yet, so I'm still using this old chipped 14 Pro case. In terms of security and privacy settings, the 15 Pro is no different than the 14 Pro, since settings are mostly controlled by the iOS version or the individual app settings. Like how every time you download an app, it often asks to enable location, which I like that it asks instead of just enabling it by default. Though wish that by now, Apple would set a minimum security instead of leaving the majority of them enabled, because I have to remember to go back to the app after each download to disable certain settings like learn from this app or Siri's suggestion, which Siri makes suggestions for what you might want to do next, such as call into a meeting or confirm an appointment based on your routines and how you use the app. Siri is listening to you, or should I say, Apple is listening to you. The big topic of every iPhone's release is its camera. It's no different this year for the iPhone 15 Pro. So I brought the iPhone 15 Pro with us to Tokyo in October, and we were so surprised on how well it performed with capturing pictures and videos. To start, here are some pictures we had stranger take for us in front of Sensoji Temple in Asakusa. I have to say, the person knows a bit or two about photography because look how good they turned out to be, angled and all. Okay, back to the phone's camera. The red color of the lantern and gate definitely popped in the images. And the stabilization is amazing as well. This is a video that my husband recorded of me walking around the temple ground without any gimbal. This was all done handheld. We didn't turn on action mode either. It was just on regular video mode. You cannot even tell I was walking a bit fast here. The video is incredibly smooth, which amazes us when we review the footage. Here is a different clip captured with the 14 Pro and it's not as smooth. You can see some bouncing from the walking. Let's take a look at another picture I captured using the iPhone 15 Pro. There was no filter added to this photo. I took this at the Meguro Canal, which is a super popular spot to go during cherry blossom time, where it's overflowing with pink flower petals from both sides. Anyway, I digress. But doesn't this picture look like something that you would find from a Fujifilm? It's almost a bit film simulator, right? As for the zoom between the 14 Pro and the 15 Pro, you can barely tell the difference unless you look for it. From my images with the 3x zoom, the 15 Pro is sharper than the 14 Pro. Especially when you look at the pillow in the foreground, you can see that the threading is sharper on the 15 Pro. However, from a quick glance, you won't be able to notice it. And under low lighting, the 15 Pro does okay. Honestly, I cannot expect much from a small sensor camera. Under low light situations, I think it's better to capture silhouettes or black and white photos unless you want to use flash. which I'm personally not a fan of using flash for photos because the light is often way too harsh. Just my opinion. It's worth noting that the 15 Pro does a little better under low light than the 14 Pro because when zoomed in, we can see the image is more grainy on the 14 Pro. However, just like the zoom scenario, it's not noticeable at first glance unless you really zoom into the photos. On the topic of camera, I want to point out something that I didn't know until recently, which is that I can remotely capture images with my iPhone from my iWatch. Of course, I have to be within a certain distance of the phone, but it's super cool that I can get a glimpse of what the image would look like and frame it a bit before snapping the picture when taking selfies with the rear camera. I can't believe I just found this out recently. Feel like such a noob. Apple mentioned that on iPhone 15 models, you can apply the portrait effect and blur background on photos taken in photo mode. That's pretty wild because you don't have to think about it when taking the pictures of your subject. Now, this only happens if the phone identifies there's a person, dog, or cat in the frame, or when you tap to focus. Or at least that's what Apple states on their newsroom page. I haven't tested with cats or dogs, so I cannot confirm, but I can confirm for tapping to focus. Once the photo has been captured, there's an indicator saying portrait on the top left-hand corner, which allows you to enable or disable portrait mode after the fact. Unfortunately, this feature is not on the 14 Pro. Okay, I wasn't sure how I was going to incorporate the action button into my daily life at first because the typical options don't make a difference in my life personally. For instance, my phone is always on silent, so I don't ever have to toggle the lever when I had it on the 14 Pro. And when I want to take a picture, I just swipe the phone from the lock screen. Whether I use the action button to activate the camera or swipe, both only require a single action. So it doesn't make a difference for me. But when I came across a video on how to integrate it with the Tesla app via the Shortcut app, I was sold on how cool this feature is. Dude, you can get quite creative with this depending on what is available on the Shortcut app. I don't have to unlock my phone to open the Tesla app and tap on the open front trunk, or get into the Tesla and tap the screen to open it. It now can be easily done by one single action with the action button. So convenient. Based on tomsky.com, the Apple A17 Pro chipset shows great performance benchmark numbers. Under Geekbench 6, it does better than Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, Google Pixel 7 Pro, Asus ROG Phone 7 Ultimate, and the OnePlus 11. It also shows great performance for GPU with the 3D Mark Wildlife test, which checks how well a device can render complex graphics like when playing video games. However, under the extreme test of 3D Mark Wildlife Unlimited, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra scored the best, followed closely by the OnePlus 11, and in third is the Asus ROG Phone 7 Ultimate, which beats the 15 Pro by 2 points. It's worth noting that the extreme GPU results are much closer to each other, so Apple is not too far behind. Not trying to justify for Apple here, but just want to point out because there's a difference when you're trailing far behind the competitors versus being very close. However, Apple still have work to do. But do you know what I find interesting? All of the scores so far show that the iPhone 15 Pro is better than the 15 Pro Max. Interesting, right? Making me more glad that I went with the 15 Pro and not the Pro Max. I also ran the Geekbench 6 and 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme Unlimited on both the 14 Pro and 15 Pro because I want to see the results for myself. Now, I don't have a Samsung or OnePlus to compare with, so this would be more of a comparison between the 14 Pro and 15 Pro against the results of tomsky.com. What I noticed that didn't cross my mind before I ran my own benchmark test is that both phones, when put on lower power mode to save battery consumption, did poorly and got terrible results. It makes sense though, since the phone has to limit its usability to lower the battery consumption, therefore impacting the benchmark scores. So if you're playing a video game, maybe best to not have lower power mode on for best performance. Now, would that overheat the phone? Well, that leads us into the next topic. How hot will it get from watching a 15-minute video, or how about a 30-minute gaming session on Genshin? Now, during summer, it gets pretty hot, so it might overheat if you're playing a resource-intensive game in the car. I won't know because I've only tested this at home in October and November. Guess I will know how hot it would get during summertime. And I'll briefly put in my 2 cents about the new USB-C port. It's worth noting that the USB-C connector on the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus supports USB 2, which is up to 480 mbps, while the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max USB-C connector supports USB 3, which is up to 10 gbps. Honestly, I don't see a big deal about this as Apple made it to be. Well, for one, I think they should have implemented USB-C a lot earlier. And secondly, the cable that comes with the iPhone 15 Pro can only transfer data at USB 2 rates. Yo, what the heck, right? You're handicapping the phone's potential with a lower grade cable while we pay more for the Pro version. Not cool at all. So if you want to have the max transfer rates, we'll have to buy a USB-C cable that support USB 3 transfer speeds, and if you already have one, great. And in case you're wondering how it compares with the old Lightning to USB cable that had come with the phone in the previous iPhone model, well, that one was USB 2 cable. Principle-wise, I don't like it. But I don't think it really makes a difference for most people who are in the Apple ecosystem, since you're most likely using AirDrop to share your files, and charging feels the same for me. Not better or worse. It's just a plus that I have one less cable type to worry about. Overall, I don't think the iPhone 15 Pro is mandatory. It's more of a nice to have, especially for me who loves taking quick snaps of things that I find interesting. I don't have to think too much when taking pictures with the phone, especially selfie, while I'm not that quick on a camera, since I have to fidget with the dials and everything. However, if you're on a budget, a tight one, the iPhone 15 Pro is not worth the upgrade. And let's say your phone is in dire need of a replacement, then you can get the iPhone 15, which starts at $799, which is $800 while the iPhone 15 Pro starts at $999, $1,000. So you can save $200 because the 15 is pretty much the 14 Pro, but without the telephoto lens and a USB-C port and a couple more specs. I would recommend buying the 14 Pro if you don't care about the USB-C port, but unfortunately, it's not showing on the Apple shop. The 14 is there, but not the 14 Pro. But I think you can get the 14 Pro at other locations, such as with your cellular carrier. If you're upgrading or have upgraded, please share with me in the comment section below which feature or lack of feature that made your decision, and if you currently have the 15 Pro, how are you liking yours? On a bonus note, I found this to be super helpful, maybe because I can never remember the meaning of each laundry symbol, but with the latest iOS 17, your phone can now help you determine how to wash your clothes if the labels have only symbols and no word descriptions. Now, this method will only tell you what the symbols mean if they're on the ISO.org website. Anyway, this laundry symbol info is not exclusive to the latest iPhone model, but to the iOS 17, so this works on iPhone 14 or 14 Pro as well. There's also the look up artwork, but it sucks and needs so much more work for it to be useful. Anyway, thank you so much for staying to the end of this video. Hope you find this video helpful. If you do, please click the thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it down below. Thank you again for watching, and have yourself a nice day or night wherever you are, my buddies. Until next time, bye!